Welcome to the Behind Life Struggles, episode 5, part 2. I'm your host, Nelzy. I would like to welcome my co-host, Mr. Forbes.
What's going on? What's
doing?
going on? What's going on?
You
I'm
good?
about, bro. I'm about. I'm just here trying to have. I'm just here trying to have some grown-up conversation with not so grown-up people, but you know how it is.
He's starting already.
All right,
Fair enough. I would like to welcome my guest, Shayla. How you doing?
Hi everyone, I'm fine. I'm just here with the OAP, you know. I'm again. You.
See, usually I will leave Lily last, but as we've got a new guest, I'm gonna go to Lily next. How you doing, Lily?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing great. I'm doing better than you guys.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And lastly, but not least, I would like to welcome my new guest, Jay. Please, everybody, welcome him.
Yes, guys, thank you.
What's going on?
Pleasure to be here.
So, our last episode was about absent fathers, and unfortunately, our guest Simone cannot make it. But the question that was posed to her was, do you think women should get full custody of the child? So I'll pose that question to Jay as he's our new guest.
Should the woman have full custody?
Yes. So in the States where they give the male and the female 50-50,
Yeah.
but in this country, over 85% of females get full custody. It's a high percentage. Do you think that is fair?
Nah, I don't, to be honest.
So do you think that the male and the female should automatically get
I think it should be 50-50. And I feel like it gives women a little bit more power. Do you know what I mean? Having full custody. So yeah, I disagree with that, to be honest.
And you think that is one of the reasons why some males are absent?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, yeah.
Okay, so the same question posed to Shayla.
I don't know, why are you smiling for?
Do you agree that the male and the female should get 50-50 custody?
Yeah, I do. If there's nothing wrong with both partners and they're able and capable of looking after their children, then why not? They should be equally given share. And I think if the father has always been present, it's just obviously the relationship that had broke down. I feel like they even should consider weigh up the odds properly to who is the more fit parent to be the sole custody of the child. Just because a woman is a woman and she bears the child doesn't mean that she's fully capable of being a mother. You know, she could have been a mother that wasn't really present in the household, and the man might have done more of the role. So I think they really need to weigh up properly, look deep into that, each parent, and see who was what more with the child, who gave the child more attention, help them, just in general. It shouldn't just be assumed that the mum is automatically the correct person to have the child.
Do you agree, Lily?
Yeah, I do agree. I don't feel like that it should just be the woman that should, get full custody of the child. I also think as well, sometimes when it's like 50-50, it could be that, sometimes when it's full custody, it could be that the man, he might even know, oh, this woman's not 100% fit, but because he doesn't want that burden, he just goes with it. Do you know what I mean? Some men do that, and I feel like depending on the dynamic of their relationship as well, he probably doesn't even want to deal with that, liaising with her. Oh, you have them on Tuesday. He just wants to come in and out when he can.
So are you saying that men are happy to be a part-time parent?
I think so. Some men.
Majority.
Do you agree with that, Paul?
I agree to a certain extent,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I agree because
Oh,
sorry.
Go on, Jay. No, go on.
Yeah, no, I think Lee made a good point, and I think some men are for different reasons. It could be, they're not ready for that responsibility, and they're ready, they're prepared to just be in and out. And again, it could be a thing whereas liaising with their baby mother could be a headache, and it's just not worth it. So that could be one of the reasons as well.
Either kids ain't worth it.
No, but
the headache is not worth it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
But
the
the
kids,
kids-
but it's just the headache.
the
And
kids
like
first.
some men, what they do as well is that they wait for the child to get to a certain age where they can start liaising with the child, you know, directly rather than liaising via the mum.
So, but don't you feel by them doing that, they're basically creating damage to the child, because the child now starts to feel abandoned because
100%.
for all those
But I
parents
don't-
where
Yeah, go on. I don't feel like men think about that though. It's normally
They
the
don't.
woman that
It's
thinks
small-minded.
about that. They don't think about, oh yeah, the damage. I think the only thing they think about is the absence. I don't get to spend time with my child. They don't know how much it affects the child mentally. They only think about, okay, I'm not going to see my child until he's 18, or I only see my child every 2 years, and they're fine with that. For them, it's about the time, and they know that they can't see their child for a certain amount of time. That's why they give the whole responsibility to the mother, and they don't want to do 50-50 just because they know that they're not going to be available. Maybe it's because it's a headache dealing with the mother, or just maybe because they're not ready to be a dad, or they know that it's just for them right now, it's just not the right time, and they've got other priorities in their life that they want to, you know, get in order for their child to see, look, this is what I've been doing whilst I've been away. So I haven't been like a whatless dad. I've still been doing something, building it for us, but just not so that you just not in your presence all the time, because I know I can't be there right now. And sometimes they're not mentally strong. That's because where they're at in their life. So I'll come to you when I am a man, so I can show you what a man should be. And then they're gonna apologize for the time that they've left.
Do you know what?
I
Can I just say
would-
something? Yeah.
So I would
Can I just say? Oh, go on.
go on, Shayna. No, go on.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say that I agree to what you're saying a little bit, yeah. But I think that some most men, yeah, like to have excuses. And if you give them an excuse, they'll run with it. So like when they like some, you know how they like to play in the narrative, like, oh yeah, my baby mom's a headache, she's crazy, da 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 da. You can do the most to get time with your child. Don't act like you can't. You can. Obviously, there's some women that make it difficult, but if you really want to go there, you could go to contact centers. You could get something put in place, but it's easier and less headache and trouble for them to say, oh, she's crazy, I'm just going to be there for my child, I'm saving for them, but I'll be there when they're older and they can come talk to me themselves. It's easier to do that and then put the blame on somebody else. And I feel like a lot of men, if you give them the opportunity, if you break up with them and they're not really that present anyway, and you give the opportunity for them to just, you know, be a part-time dad, they're gonna take it and they're gonna roll with it. They're not gonna try and push. Not all men are like that. Some men don't do that. Some men will fight for their kids, but some of them will just take that opportunity, and because they know they weren't exactly ready for that responsibility in the first place. So they actually play in the narrative, oh, she's a crazy baby mom, or she's giving me a headache and all of this stuff. I feel like it's all an excuse. You can see, if you wanted to see your child, that you can see your child. I don't care anyone tells me. You can make a way, find a way, unless the mother is running away with your pitney to different countries consistently. That's a different story. But you can always see your child if you want to see your child. But it's easier to say, oh, she's not letting me. She's not letting me.
No,
Okay.
but I don't think it's always about that. Sometimes mentally, I feel like that, just like as a woman's like, oh my gosh, like I just had a baby, she's got postpartum, she's got all these things, she doesn't want to pick up her child, whatever. And, you know, it's a lot of responsibility, because whatever you do in your life, you know, whatever you do in your life, you can't do anything without like thinking about your kid. So,
Not
you know,
everybody.
pardon?
Some
Yeah,
people
not-
don't acknowledge their children and do not care about it.
Yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying is that when it comes to someone's mental state, and you might say it's an excuse, sometimes it's not always about the baby mum or the baby dad's a headache. Sometimes it's about what they feel, but mentally, it's just like they can't
That's
cope.
what I
It's so
said.
much. It's
That's
like,
why
What-
I
what's
said
it
they
say,
run
though?
with their
What's the
excuse.
Shayna?
They run with it because it suits them at that time. That's what I said. But they try to play on the narrative. That's what I'm saying.
no, but I feel like it's deeper than that. Sometimes and remember, most of the times when someone's a single parent, they were normally it happened to them as well. You know, so
exactly.
you got to think about that. And then so imagine it happens to them and they're just like, wow, I feel like in the same space that, you know, my dad was in, but I actually can't mentally get my head around that I'm going to be a dad and I have this responsibility until the child's 18 years old. And it's not like they're a whatless dad, it's just that they have no one around them that can tell them, you can do this. Like, you know what I mean? So it's really hard for them.
The narrative, it basically means that someone might have an other reason for them not being there, but you choosing that to make that as an excuse for them to leave. Because most men are not going to tell you, I'm not man enough right now to be a dad. They're not going to do that. They'd rather take the easy route and use what's presented in front of them as the excuse. They're not going to say, oh yeah, they might tell their child when they're older, because they're older and they're more mature, that as in the man's more mature and understands it's okay to be honest about how you feel. They might tell you then, but at the time, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, I'm not man enough to be a dad. Unless he's like, you know, very outspoken and say that. Most of them not going to say, I'm not man enough to be a dad right now. I can't choose it.
Because you know what? They don't want to talk to someone that's not understanding.
Lily, yes, so we've got 2 men here. Let's ask the men. Yeah?
What is it?
I don't.
I'll first start with Forbes.
All right. So
with Shayla's points.
So both Shayla and Lily's original points are pretty much replicate each other. And I agree with both of their points, because I agree with both of their points. Plus, now why I agree with both of their original points is I do believe a lot of men are happy for the woman to have the sole right and they play part-time dads. I think a lot of men are actually genuinely happy for that. One, and it's a lot of reasons, like the lady said, in terms of they're not either willing to take on that full level of sacrifice it needs to take to raise a child. You got to commit a lot, you got to give up a lot. A lot of men are not willing to do that. They still want to go out and do what they want to do and then still come back and then play father, right? Which is where the part-time father comes into it. And on top, and where my plus comes from as well is I feel that a lot of men, there's a lot of men out here talking about not having right to see their kids. I don't ever see men really making the right actions. They're not out there. I don't see no man. I don't see a group of men, a group of society being created for it, where men are coming together and protesting for equal rights. How women are protesting to have equal rights in 2021, both in the workplace and in society. I don't see men are doing the same thing in regards to trying to make the law at least look into creating a more of a balance.
There's a group called Men for Justice.
Men for Justice.
Men for Justice. Do you remember when a man climbed up on, I'm not sure if it was Buckingham Palace or Westminster, one of the important buildings, to basically put a banner up saying that men should also have access to their children. So it is becoming a bigger issue. So I do agree in regards to there are lots of men who are content with just being part-time, so they can go on and meet some next woman, and then unfortunately the cycle just repeats. Yeah. The question to you, Jay, is what do you think men are happy to just have one child here, one child there, and basically content to be part-time and not be involved?
Well, that's because it allows them to still do what they want to do, and they don't have, that responsibility of raising their child. They've got different women raising their children, and for a lot of them, being a dad would affect their lifestyle. There's so many sacrifices to be made. Them get some dads that every weekend, without fail, want to go out. Still want to be the man. Still, there's so many different reasons to why they can't commit to just being a dad or being with one woman, because I think, and again, I think it's a cycle as well. When they see, with a lot of the people that I grew up with, they've had several siblings, but with, all different mums. Yeah. So it's the thing that keeps repeating itself, and I feel like that's one of the reasons. And because they don't have, their dads around to show them, look, for them to see mum and dad being together for 30, 40 years, all my siblings are from my mum and my dad, then it's almost like it's okay. And again, some of the young people, some of us look up to the wrong people as well. So for example, right now, if you look at the role models to a lot of young people are, rappers, basketball players, footballers, and I'm sure you guys can testify, a lot of them are going with several women save, you know, so many kids all over the gap. So it's almost like fashion now as well.
So I will ask you another question.
Before we jump into the one thing. So for me, this one thing I was just wanting to jump onto is what the last point Jay made in regards to with some men, it would have been obviously like a repeat cycle, right? They would have grown up without a father and so on and so forth. And also the point regarding people looking at celebrities and trying to and almost like emulating what they emulates. For me, the first point in regards to people growing up without fathers, I think to a certain point you can almost use that to an excuse. I think when a man gets to a certain age, I don't know, 25, 28, whatever that sort of age, you know sense from nonsense. I think if you're going to use the excuse of not growing up with a father as an excuse when you're 28 in your grown age, then I think you have more problems than missing a father figure growing up. Because I think when you get to that age, I think you should realize that it's essential for a child to grow up without their father, right? You can't necessarily use the excuse of not having one previously. Maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just my mentality. I don't look at the fact that I grew up without my father and use it as an excuse why I would kind of almost allow my daughter to then grow up without a father.
Yeah, I totally understand.
I would never like that.
And you know what? I agree. I'm a big grown-up. I know
this
is the thing, because I can relate to what you're saying as well. Because I didn't grow up with both of my parents either, and I've always used that as motivation. I don't want to make the same mistake as well.
It's completely opposite to what people think.
But then do you know what as well though, Forbes? It comes down to the people that you're around as well. So I might grow up, let's say for example, I don't even know who my dad is, you know, and I've got several siblings all over the gaff with different mums. I easily could fall into that same sort of track as well. But if I've got if I've got good friends, if I've got friends around me who come from decent homes, you know, and you know, I can see, okay, my friend, mum and dad, they've got something really good going on. They've got a nice home, they've got a nice, lovely family. That is what I want. But in some people, they don't have those type of friends around them. They've got friends that are almost like from a similar sort of background.
To be honest, bro,
Once again, sorry, Jake, continue.
No, go on.
Yeah, so like I was saying, like if you've got friends around you that are from a similar background where they don't even know who their dad is, or they know their dad and they know that their dad's a pimp, then you're bound to go down the same road as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So for example, I'm a child and I know my dad, but my dad doesn't live with me. And my dad has got loads of different children. Yes. Now, lots of boys we know want to emulate who?
The
dad.
Yes. So
I never want to emulate no man.
No.
That's a foreign way of thinking for me. I've never had that thought process ever.
I'm not saying that is every single child, but I'm saying to you generally.
I know.
Generally, yes. You have to bear in mind that lots of people tend to sort of emulate what's in their environment. So unless, like what Jay said, that you've got a good positive sort of role models or environment, and then unfortunately you can easily fall victim to basically to your environment and end up doing things which you probably wouldn't normally do if it was in a different type of environment.
Yeah, because for me, I think it's in my head. I'm thinking, at what age you hit where all these situations happening around you no longer becomes an excuse, right? Do you use your environment as an excuse when you're 50? Is 50 too old where you can finally say, oh yeah, I'm beyond this? I don't know, maybe it's just a way of thinking. Maybe just how I am mentally. Like people say, oh, who's your role model? I don't really have things like who's your role model, and I don't really look up to anyone in that regard. I just want to be successful and happy, and then try. And I actually want to do better than what my father failed to do, and say, okay, so what he didn't do, I am definitely going to do. So I use that more as a lesson for me, as a lesson. Okay, so that's what happened when you don't do A, B, and C, right? So okay.
The thing is, I do agree that it's all down to your mentality, because say if I've got a dad and he was never there, and when I was younger I always thought he's just whatless man, and you know, I just thought to myself, I'm gonna do better than, you know, he's done for me, or he's done in his lifetime. And so I could, you know, be, you know, in a really great job, I could be like middle class or high class, have all the things in the world, and then but my personality, it just stinks, and I've got certain characteristics that my dad has. I haven't let go of that. Like, say if for instance, if I'm a man and other women see that in me, that I'm like this, or I'm that, they keep on reminding me that I'm like my dad, because I haven't let go of the hatred or the hurt that he's done to me. So I'm actually acting that out. So even though people can say, oh yeah, I want better for myself, I want this, I want that, certain things will just never leave you until you let them go. So it's all about your mentality, definitely.
Forbes, so do you think then that in this country the men should get equal opportunities to have custody of the child?
Yeah, 100%. I think with everything in life, there should definitely be a balance and an equality about it. I think if you and a woman go into a relationship and you create a child, I don't understand why one will have more power over the other. Because as with power comes what we have a lot of cases of, which is people using the power to their own benefits. I'm not saying every woman, but there's also women that use the child as a pawn to control the man, so they can't get the man, so they use the child as a pawn to control the whole process. There is also some men that use the child as a pawn to get back at the woman by thinking, okay, if I don't see the child, then that would affect the woman. But in theory, realistically, both parties most of the time miss the actual point, which is the child's the most important thing, right? And all the stuff that happens before or during relationships is actually really irrelevant, because a child, to them, all that matters is time, right? But people do lose that perspective.
Okay,
Heavy.
so Jay, in the last episode, we asked all the guests this question, and all of them, apart from Shada, disagreed. So, if two people met for a one-night stand, and the female ended up getting pregnant, should the man be responsible for that child?
Should the man be responsible? Yeah.
Yes, financially.
Financially?
Yes.
Should he be responsible?
Yes.
Yeah.
So even though he doesn't know her, even though the agreement was for them to just do their deed and that's it, you still believe that they should be financially responsible for that child?
Yeah, it should be, because like the woman that made the baby on her own, she needed someone there.
That's right.
Okay, so Forbes disagreed with that in our last episode. So Forbes,
Lee wasn't there either.
Weren't you, Lily?
No, she wasn't there either. She wasn't there.
The same question I will pose to you, Lily. Do you think that the male should be held financially responsible in that scenario?
Yes. Did you say solely financially responsible?
If both parties don't know each other, all it is, they just met up to hook up and that's it.
Yeah.
So should he now be financially responsible for the child, even though he's told the woman he doesn't want that child?
Well, to be honest with you, I feel like that. I really do feel like it just depends. Like, if the woman chooses to keep it, because remember, it's a one-night stand. Yeah, that means you're going out and then you're drunk, and then next 6 weeks later you're like, oh, like I'm pregnant, and then you can't even remember the man, and then you have to look.
No, she remembers the man.
Say she remembers the man, and she goes to the man, and like the man's like, well, I don't want you to keep it, and she's like, well, I'm keeping it. Well, if he doesn't want to be in that person's life, at least give contact details, so that when the child's older, maybe just to even say, hi, you are my dad, and but I don't really, I don't know. I don't think he should, especially if he's asking, well, why do you do this?
Should he be responsible financially, yes or no? It's not two to create a baby, not one.
I say yes if he does want to be in the life.
What?
No, okay, so the point was he doesn't want to be in the child's life. He doesn't want the baby.
Yeah, so he's not financially. Well, he should be. No, that's the dad. He should be financially responsible. Like, but if he doesn't want to be in the person's life, you can't force him to like get his hand in his pocket and pay for everything.
You
But I
can.
do
You know
feel
what?
like
I just thought about this.
You
Yeah.
can.
if we were in front of Judge Judy will say, "This is your child."
Judge
Let me
Judy
say-
would
let me-
say, go back to your own country.
If you think about this,
Yeah.
if you think about it deeply, to be honest, he doesn't need to be financially responsible. But my
Yeah,
thing
but-
is, if you're going to be financially responsible, then you might as well be in a child's life, no? But
Yeah.
the money is not the important bit.
Mhm.
It's the spending
doing
time
it.
with the child. So
Yeah.
it's what is it is that she wants. Why do you want him to be financially a part of? If he said he doesn't, okay, maybe I'm changing my mind, because if he
You
says
are.
he doesn't want to be with the mother and she's
Yeah.
decided, because it was a one night stand, it was a one bam, thank you, ma'am, and then she decided to keep the baby. He's like,
And
I
he
don't want nothing to do with the baby, and you're gonna go and
Mhm.
message him like, excuse me, well, you owe me, you need to give me money for
Yeah.
this. Realistically, you have decided to keep the baby on your own. The financial aspect is basically nothing, because it has nothing to do with the relationship with the child. It's more of what you want to upkeep with the child. Now, if you decide to keep the child, you should be financially responsible, because it's more important that he sees his child than the finance, if you get what I mean. So technically, if he doesn't want to be a part of the child's life, why does he need to be financing it as well? There's
But
no
how-
point.
You have changed. You have
how-
changed.
Say, Lily.
What I don't understand, some women is that, I get it, abortion is not nice yet, but why, if a man says he doesn't want to have the child, right, and then you go to have the child, and then you start, as the child grows up, your dad didn't want to be in your life, he did this and the other. I'm just thinking,
Obviously,
it's
there's
really
something
hard to
different.
tell your child he didn't even want you, but you're forgetting that it was a one night stand and you didn't even want that anyway until you found out that
this
you
is
were
my point
pregnant.
where I mentioned that sometimes in some relationships, some women use a child as a pawn, right? It's not really there. Like, for instance, the fact that we're talking about finances before we're talking about time and attention, like Shayla mentioned, and it's not even about spending time with the child, it's gone straight to the finances. That kind of show that she's looking for a cash.
money,
she's looking
that's
for
it.
some sort of 18-year bank loan.
Yeah, it's true. I thought about it. That makes sense.
So, Jay,
No.
do you agree with Shayla's points?
Do you know what? I agree with Shano's points, yeah. But my thing is, okay, if it's gonna be a one night stand and you know there's an agreement in place, number one, I don't even know how there's condoms. There's
Protection.
other ways you can avoid from that happening, in it. But then it's gotten to that now. So I'm just going off, if it was me, for example, if I was in that position, like there's no way that I could even though I didn't want the baby, there's no way I can not take responsibility just because of the way I've been brought up. And I've been, taught to take responsibilities for even my mistakes. I got to take accountability. So that's where I'm coming from. So there's no way I'm going to be like, oh, I don't want the baby. But then, 9 months down the line, she ends up having the baby and I'm absent, or I don't want to contribute to anything. Yes, I'm not going to take sole responsibility of all the finances, but I would have to take some sort of responsibility.
Okay, so with Forbes, Shayla, and Lily, now I disagree with all three of you. The reason why I disagree with all three of you is this, yeah? If you think about it, in the current environment where we've got males who just go about sleeping with multiple different women and breeding up the place, yeah? So if she can't look after that child, who's going to have to bore the cost for looking after all these children?
Let me tell you something.
Ask the question, who's going
No,
to bore the cost?
I'm going to. Who's going to bore the cost of
Yes.
what? The finances from the child. It's going to be the government, because guess what? She decided to keep the baby on her own.
I agree with the logic, but the point is this, yes? Every man knows if you lay down with a woman, there's a possibility that she can become pregnant, yes?
But
Especially
I'm
if you don't use protection, yes?
But I'm not
So
disputing this.
even though it's a one night stand, yes, and we all agree that was never ever the agreement, yes? But the fact is, you chose to lie down with this person.
And
yes?
so did she.
So yes, I agree with you, and so did she. So which means then you knew that there is a possibility that she could get pregnant, and there's nothing you can do about it. So
And she knew
we
that
can't
he might not pay.
live in a society where we just have people going around breeding up everybody and not taking no responsibility. The government gets the money from who?
Well, yeah, but she could have worked too, so that's her money.
No, but the point I make is single parents struggle already. Yes, single parents also need financial help. So even though I do agree with you, it is unfair because obviously he said that he doesn't want the child, but unfortunately, when he chose to lay down with her, his rights right there have been taken away.
Yeah, but
Shouldn't be.
responsibility.
It shouldn't be.
You need
It shouldn't
but
be.
you-
It shouldn't be.
responsibility.
It shouldn't be, you reckon?
It
That
shouldn't be.
word.
I think it's too open and shut because ultimately, if we're in order to bring the process of bringing a child into work together should be a partnership, should be a joint decision, right?
It was.
It wasn't a joint decision. We are procreating. You're confusing procreating with like creating life, right?
Go on.
We know.
She
If
knew
I-
what was gonna happen.
Listen, it's not necessarily she know, but from me, right? If she comes and says she's pregnant, and I said I'm not ready to have a child, and she is ready to have a child, then what am I financially responsible for?
Because it's your
Can I say
child.
something?
How? My name ain't on the birth certificate.
Okay, so
Who are you gonna come looking for?
Someone will be on the pill, no?
I can't be forced to take a test, right?
so see, this is
So you're just gonna live throughout your life, no, knowing that there's a
No, but
possibility.
some women are on the
Yeah,
pill.
you can have a
And then
child.
some women are on the pill, have contraception, right? Have contraception. And if she's on contraception, if the guy knows she's on contraception, yeah, and then obviously she gets pregnant, okay, cool. But if you know that she's on nothing and then you do what you do and something happens, obviously she can take the one pill. Some girls, yeah, will purposely not take what they need to be taken so that they can trap the guy. But if
Yeah,
you
but-
think about it, really, they have probably had a communication where they don't want that to happen. Now, if you then go off as a woman and be like, you know what, I've changed my mind, I want to have this baby. You as a woman, in your own mind, you should think about carrying that responsibility on your own because that person you didn't lie down to create a baby. It wasn't like a joint decision where you said, oh yeah, let's have a child together. I don't think, when you say responsibility, yeah, I feel it could be
basically,
financially and it can be.
Basically done what society has done, which is giving the woman the power.
No, so
Because what you basically said is, if you and this random woman get together, have a child, she turn around and say to you, she's pregnant. You go, no, I don't want a child. She says she wants a child. Now, yes becomes stronger than my no. Suddenly, yes has now overthrown my no. Why is that? That is telling me, yes is more powerful than my no, right?
So
Then now
no.
take
It's not.
responsibility.
Irrespective, we have to understand the mechanics. We all know that the woman carries the child. Once we do the deed, even if she on contraceptives, there is a possibility that she can still become pregnant.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but now, and remember, it's her choice whether or not she chooses to keep the child because she carries the child. It's different.
So I lose power then. So
It's
I've
morally
obviously
right
I've become
to say he should be
I basically
financially
lost my power then as the man.
Unfortunately, yes, we cannot dictate to the woman what she can and can't do with her body. That's
No,
the,
but
that's,
it's
that's,
Yeah,
morally
but she can't
right
dictate to me what I do with my finances then either.
I don't think that's
Right?
correct. It's
She
morally
can't dictate to me what I do with my finances.
the issue is because there is another human being, another life that's come out of that, yes, who is now part of you or part of her. So this is the issue. This is where both parties now have to be responsible now to make sure that this child has got all his or her needs taken care of. We live in a society where we've just got loads of children where the father's just off breeding and
money has nothing to do
not
with
being
that.
financially responsible. This is why, unfortunately, we are.
I think the women are not being responsible as well.
Yeah,
No,
I agree with you. I agree with you.
No, but like I said to you, you're making this a very woman empowerment, and almost like a man has lost the power to make any of those decisions.
Think about it.
Like all those decisions get taken away from us. We then now have to then follow suit. So she's like, okay, I'm going to have the child, even though you don't want to have the child, regardless of what your reasons behind. You may not be ready. Same as I was talking about, you might not be ready to have a child, but she's, oh yeah, I want to have a child now. So now you now have to become ready to have that child, right?
Yes, but
and then you lose all your responsibility now.
You knew that before you laid down with her, didn't you?
No, but that's the
No,
thing.
once again, did you or not?
We were just procreating. There was no child
hold
discussion
on.
in this.
This is where you take away the man's responsibility in his action. It is because
the transaction is one transaction. You're merging transactions, bro. I'm just talking about one transaction. The transaction of sexual intercourse.
Say that
That's
again.
one transaction.
Take the responsibility for your actions. They both did something together, right? They both did something together.
I agree.
And then he says he doesn't want the child. but then
Okay.
she chooses to have the child. Now, for every action and choice, decision, there is a consequence.
Mhm.
She now has to live with that burden of her child because he doesn't want to deal with that, and he doesn't want to be a part of it. So she needs to take on that responsibility because that's the choice
Yeah.
that she's made.
Okay,
Her
he-
responsibility.
Okay, so you're in a serious relationship with your partner, yes? Now, your partner told you he doesn't want no more children.
That's that.
Yes.
Ooh, looking at Safari and Erica.
Yeah, so he told you he wants no more children, and then suddenly now you're pregnant.
That's different though.
Oh, no,
So he's not going to take care of that one last child that he had.
No.
He's not going to take care of the one last child.
Once again, Forbes, firstly, is that different?
Oh,
In a
Well, it's
relationship. Come on,
techie.
Forbes, in a
I
relationship.
think what slightly changes it is because you're already in a relationship.
And have a child.
Yeah, so I think you're already in a relationship, and I think you are both aware that that responsibility is yours.
Wait,
What?
Forbes, he said that they have a child already, but I don't want any
No,
more.
because I know what John's trying to rope me into saying. I know what John's trying to rope me into saying. Because ultimately,
So, Jay,
I know what John's trying to get me to say. Because once I agree to Safari, yeah, then it counteracts my previous point about the responsibility. So that's why as I was saying the words, I thought, no, this guy's trying to.
It's different because if you're married, you made a commitment to
Jay-
your partner, no?
one second, sorry, Jay,
Yeah.
agree that the fact that he told his partner he wants no more children,
Hmm.
and then she becomes pregnant. Now, should he be financially responsible for that child, even though he told her he wants no more children?
But
Yeah,
in the relationship and they're married.
yeah, it should still be. They're in a relationship, then they're married. Yeah, you should still be responsible.
So is there a difference between this scenario?
There's no difference, in my opinion. Well, there is a difference, but at the same time, the man, with both scenarios, he's got to take responsibility.
Shayla, last point for you. You were saying
I'm saying that the difference is there's a big difference, right? Now if you already have a child with them and they don't want any more kids, but you end up getting pregnant, I feel like if that's your husband or your partner, you've made a commitment to that, and you already have your family base already. Even though you don't want to do it, you need to take on that responsibility because guess what? You're in a relationship and marriage as well is a commitment. So you have committed to that situation. You're gonna then jump off and be like, I'm not dealing with this because obviously you can do that, but then that just shows your character. You're already in a committed relationship. Remember, the other person has no commitment to that woman at all. He doesn't know her last name. He doesn't know where she lives. It's just a one night stand, no
that's
commitment, no
irrelevant,
nothing.
though.
But
That's
it isn't
irrelevant.
irrelevant because
It
how
is,
can
it's
I
irrelevant.
be in a relationship with you and I tell you that I don't want another child? I'm taking care of this one. You can't care of it by
I
yourself.
think the situation is
ridiculous.
key. I think the
You can't do
situation is
that.
key. I think the
You have
situation is
a
key
family
because
family
morally,
behind that
is
man. And
yeah, we're talking about moral decisions. We're talking about making moral choices, and they're two completely different.
that's wild. You
decisions.
can't say
Yeah.
that.
So, okay, you think, yes, morally, because the person is in a relationship, it is okay for her to go ahead and ignore his choice and his feelings and get pregnant.
I don't think
Is that
so.
what you're saying?
No, but how did she ignore it?
No,
Just
I'm
go in
saying
there
more.
and think,
I'm saying
okay.
they're in a relationship.
She-
She's now
look,
pregnant.
She didn't control she's getting pregnant. Sorry.
Of course you can.
She
Like
didn't
you said,
control that she got pregnant.
Pardon?
She can't control that. You're saying like she
We
is
need to talk
able
about-
get pregnant. That's not true.
Because ideally
We
he
need to
should have got
talk
a slip
about
as well.
men.
He should have got a
We
slip.
need to talk
when he
about
was
men
pregnant.
getting a vasectomy. We need to
Yeah.
talk about that.
yes. Okay.
And she should have tied her tubes.
There we go.
Yeah, really want that to happen.
Well, you know.
Some women purposely ask their husbands to get a vasectomy because they want to make sure if you cheat, you can't go out and have more women, more
never.
babies with other women.
But vasectomy is to be
That's
reversed.
crazy.
Well,
You must-
they are
Yeah,
reversible.
you can save
Yeah.
your
They are reversible. But whereas if a female ties her tubes, that's not. So,
It's like, have you seen Love and Hip Hop when the guy doesn't want to have the woman doesn't want to have any kids, so she tells her partner, Young Jock, that's it, tells Young Jock to go and get a vasectomy, and she's like, if you love me, you would get one because I don't want to have any more. I don't want to have any kids, and you've got loads of kids.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
But has he done it yet?
Yeah, he said he's not. He said if he flipped it around and said, if you love me, then you get your tubes tied. And she was like, no, that's not how it works.
Oh.
Yeah, but you're the one that doesn't want to have any kids.
So
Keep your tube and I keep my thing.
we can discuss this double standards on our next episode. Switch back to absent fathers. So this question to Jay. In your classroom when you were younger, how many people had both the parents in their home?
Very few. I can't. Not up to even double figures, and there's 30 children in the class. So,
Same question to Lily.
Maybe it was half.
Okay. Same question to Forbes.
Most kids had both of their parents in my school in Peckham.
in Peckham.
That's funny.
To be honest, my school in Peckham, I don't know. I think it'd be more of a balance. I think it's more balanced. Unless you disagree, Nels. I thought it was more balanced.
I definitely disagree with you.
Okay. We did have a lot of Asian kids in the family, and they normally mums and dad. They normally have both parents.
Okay, so Shayla, same for you.
I went to too many schools. The one that I went to that was in Camberwell, I don't think there was many of them had both parents. But then I went to a school in Surrey, and I'm sure a lot of them had both of their parents together.
So, as we discussed in a previous episode about culturally, there seems to be this issue in regards to having both parents in the house in certain cultures. So you mentioned in the Asian culture where you tend to find there's both mum and dad in the home, but unfortunately in the Caribbean, it's very unlikely. Now, in the African culture, you would tend to find mum and dad also in the home. We do know, obviously, in current environment, yes, it is. Sorry?
And the current environment is changing now.
It is. I agree. It's changing, but you still don't see
Still
that change.
noticeably the other way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
You don't see that change as much in the Asian cultures. Why do you think that is, Jay?
I don't know, because I feel like with us, we're losing our culture slightly. Like with the Asians, they believe, like, obviously, I don't want to talk too much about race, but with the Asians, you rarely see an Asian, getting with another race. With being in school, with most of the dads that have left their homes, they tend to go for like a different race. And I feel like because back home we were obviously being Nigerian, it was you'd have to marry your own. That's how it was. I remember growing up, I was told I had to marry my own, this, that, and the other. But then as soon as I think during the 90s, when a lot of Nigerians started to move, to London, they start to see like different types of women. And with us as well, back then, there was a lot of arranged marriages. So they were getting married and not even knowing their spouses. So it was almost like they were forced. So they were never in love, you know what I mean? And then they come to the country and they're seeing different types of women and they've got a choice now. And because they have that choice, I feel like that's probably played a part into why, a lot of I'm just going to talk from the African homes, especially, has been disjointed slightly.
Okay, so same question to Forbes. From a Caribbean point of view, why do you think that is such an issue?
It's one I couldn't give you necessarily the answer for. I look at Asian. I'm trying to look at the difference in why is, for instance, Asian culture. Obviously, because I initially mentioned it in my first comment, and we obviously, I think it's probably the easiest culture to talk about in terms of generally you have two-parent household. And I try to look at what are they doing differently to what we're not doing as a Caribbean, and I think sort of Jay highlighted a lot of it, especially in the Asian community. There's a lot of arranged marriage. It's been culturally for generations upon generations. So there's a lot of things where society is kind of already geared towards you being married and being a couple, and in raising kids. There's how Asian tradition is baked around you coming together and marrying somebody for whatever reason, finances, prosperity, whatever it is. And I think the Caribbean culture is not geared necessarily around driving maybe the family unit. Right? I don't think it's necessarily geared. I think some of it could be the fact that we are semi-culturalists, if that makes any sort of sense. We're not, as Caribbeans, remember, we disown ourselves from being Africans. We're not Asians, we're not white, we're not whatever. So our base is a little bit foundationless, right? Because at least with for instance, like Jay being Nigerian, he's Nigerian. He's from Nigeria, right? As a Caribbean being from Jamaica, you could be from any of the Nigerian cultures. You almost have no cultural reference, if that makes any sense.
Kinda. So, Lily, how many Asians do you know that have got multiple different baby mothers?
Do you know what? I think I know one person, but I would say maybe it just depends on the status, like the social status as well, or where you know they were brought up in terms of like the people around them. And so
do you agree with that point, Shayla? Do you think it's do you think your environment has plays a part?
Yeah, I believe the environment does play a part, and I believe it depends on their family as well. For some Asian people, even though they're Asian, they might not be heavily cultured in that aspect. Like, as in, I know a family who I grew up with Asian. They were like Asian, you know, they were into their, you know, culture, but a lot of their family members had married a lot of black men. And I think it might not probably been the norm for their parents, but because that's their environment that their kids were in, the culture aspect was there, but it wasn't maybe the culture in terms of what they did as culture as in their household, but not when it came to, you know, who they would be with. Like, you know, there's a lot of things with Asians not wanting their kids to mix with other, you know, marrying. They wanted to marry within the culture, within the, you know, same. But I think because of the environment that they grew in, they couldn't really stop that because
the mixing.
Yeah, and probably the parents as well. Remember, it's been watered down, so their grandparents probably would have been like more stern with it, like no. But then when it comes to the grandparents' children, which are now the mothers of those kids, they've had to be a bit more lenient because they realized they brought their kids up in a westernized country, and their environment is different to what it would have been if they were brought up back home.
Okay, so
I don't really. I don't want
to. Lily, 1 second, sorry. So the original question was. So in your environment, how many Asians do you know that have got multiple different baby mothers?
See, Asian. They don't have multiple. I don't know any, but I know the ones I do know. I don't think it's what mixed Asians. Yeah, they do.
No. How many full Asians do you know have got loads of different baby mothers in your environment?
I don't really know anyone that's Asian too tough. So
okay. Then question to Jake.
Me, none, 0.
Okay, so the reason why I asked that question is because in my environment, I knew lots of Asians, and from different social classes. I can't think of one that has got loads of different baby mothers. Not.
But you know what? You wouldn't know, because imagine a lot of them would not even let it be known that they have children.
Exactly, but why do you think that is?
Because they would be embarrassing to their family.
Now, if you look at the flip side, in their culture, that is deemed unacceptable. Yes? But whereas you flip at either the Caribbean culture, it's like it's deemed as it's acceptable because it's so common, it's so prevalent. Whereas the Nigerian culture, if you, Jay, for example, or one of your friends came back and told their mothers they got, all these different baby mothers, would it be deemed acceptable in your culture?
Not really, but okay, this is the thing though. Historically, like even my granddad had more than one wife.
Mhm.
So it was part of our tradition to have more than one wife anyways, and to have so many kids. So that's probably one of the reasons why. So like even like now, it's not acceptable, but then it's almost like, well, doesn't matter because your dad did it, so it's okay. Your granddad did it, so it's not like it's okay, but like, all right, we just have to get on with it.
Okay. So Forbes, why do you think that lots of men are happy to just pay their ex-partners money and just live that part-time lifestyle?
For me, maybe they're not. I think maybe not emotionally invested in the child. Because I think if you are emotionally invested in your child in any way, shape, or form, you're going to want to be able to dedicate time to that child, right? You can't, and you wouldn't just settle for the finances, because the money becomes, as we kind of spoke about before, the money is secondary, right? The first and foremost thing is about the time and attention that you're going to spend. So if you are willing just to financially pay for the child and not willing to see the child, then I take it the fact that you're not emotionally invested in that child at all.
Okay, so once again, Leela, I'll come at you. So Jay, some men say once your ex-partner moves on with somebody else, they are no longer financially responsible for that child. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that at all. That is your child. You're still responsible.
What if the child's not yours?
No.
The child is yours. The child is yours, but then the baby mum's moved on. They're still your responsibility. That's your child.
Yeah.
That's wild, of course.
Okay.
What's wild?
You said that should the man? Remember I said last time that it's not even if the person's got a new partner, he should always be responsible for his child, whether he likes it or not.
What do you think that says about a man's moral compass, that he can completely walk away from his child? This question goes to Lily.
If he can walk away, if he can just walk away from his child.
Yes.
It just shows that you don't want to take on any responsibility, really. You kind of run away from your growth, and so you run away from challenges. You can't take challenges in life. That's what I think.
Okay, so Forbes, do you think that shows a flaw in his moral compass?
Of course it does. Because it shows that he doesn't take, as we kind of spoke about before, responsibility, ownership, and also shows that there is also a component of something emotional that's lacking, right? Because naturally, you would, if you have a child, I believe naturally you would want to, as a man, you want to be a provider. You want to care for that and provide for that child. I think if you don't have any of those sensation, any of those emotional attachments, then yeah, definitely.
But don't you think it makes the man feel quite, say, towards the woman, it makes him feel a bit inferior because, she gets all the money from the government, blah, blah. And normally I think the reason why men are absent is because some of the men don't have the money, the finances to be able to afford the child. So it is a challenge for them in every single aspect of their life. And that's why they go. And maybe they're not going to say, oh, I didn't have the money for it, because that is also what I think makes, a man feel like a man. And well, I can say for myself because
I don't agree either.
Hold on. I do feel like if you have no money and you have a child coming on, and you've got a child coming on the way, you can't provide for them, and you're not even committed to the lady, what do you have to offer her? Other than, when men say, oh, what do you have? What can you offer me, when he's got all of the money and she's just herself and that's it? What do you have to offer that woman? Are you telling me you've got one part of you?
The woman, it's for the child.
No, but sorry, Shay. I agree. I understand where she's coming from. Yeah, I agree, because women tend to have a sharp mouth as well, and for men, it's a pride thing. It's a pride thing. So forget
Yeah,
about. I get that some men might be scared because the financial not stable, this, that, and the other. But the most important thing is just the time and being there, because that's the most important. That's what the child's asking for. But then I feel like for men, because of their pride, they don't want this girl to start, or this woman to start talking to me like I'm nothing. I can't afford this. She's taking care of that. I'm not even going to be in the baby's life because I don't want to have to hear her sharp tongue. So I think that's where.
That's a coward, though, isn't it?
Sorry.
That means he's a coward.
No, but this is the thing, though, Shay, and this is why a lot of men feel like.
It's an excuse.
It's an excuse. To get myself right first.
It
is an excuse. It is an excuse.
But guess what?
But this is the thing, though. But listen, but even us as guys, our pride is such. It's an important thing to us, And then
when it comes to a child, your pride should be put aside.
But then, it should be. But does that give the woman the right to start opening her mouth anyhow and start saying, "Oh yeah, look at you, you're broke. You can't even take care of your child." But he's there. He wants to be there. Imagine Shane. He's saying, "Oh, I want to be there. Let me see my child. I want to spend some time. Let me take my child to the park." But then you're like saying, "Oh yeah, but you're broke now. You can't see this child until you come correct and get some money. Then you can come see your child."
Exactly. And won't that make you feel like you're not a man? Like, even though you're a man, but that is a contribution to making you feel like a man.
Okay. I think you're making excuses now. The reason why I think you're making excuses is, though I do agree with you 100% about time being very important, but when a child is hungry, you can't feed the child time. The bottom line is, yes, you have to now be responsible enough to go and get any job. Doesn't matter what job it is.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Because I want to touch on that as well. I want to touch on that because
to
make sure that
child.
Of course, I understand that.
I be sitting down eating my dinner, but I don't even know whether my child has eaten.
Exactly.
To me, that's wild.
That's what he's saying, though. He's
but this is what I'm trying to say. But
what is crazy?
I'm not saying that he shouldn't provide. He shouldn't. I'm not saying that he shouldn't contribute financially. But what I'm saying is, what if the woman, let's say she earns more than him, and he's trying his best. He's working a job at Asda, stacking shelves. He's doing his bit, and he's trying to work his way up just so that he can level up. That's why I said he's trying to come correct, because sometimes you have to understand, men are they're trying. Some men are actually trying. They're doing all that they can do to make sure that they can provide for their child and give the child what they probably didn't have growing up. But then you've got a woman on the other hand who she's got a good job, she's earning well more than you are, but then the little that you're giving, she's like, well, what's that gonna do? Like, I need to buy this.
And don't give directly to her.
Like that.
Okay, so can we all agree that being a man is that you have to provide, right? It's a contribution. Being a man, you have to provide. I can see you nodding your head, Forbes, because you said that money doesn't make you a man, but it's a contribution that makes you feel like a man. And I don't. If you want to disagree and say that, imagine like you've got a ex-partner there, and you're spending time with her, whatever, and you're trying to find food in your little pockets, and you have nothing. You don't even have a job. It will be hard for you mentally to figure out, oh my gosh, am I really a man? I can't even provide for my child. It's a contribution. I wouldn't say it's a big, massive.
Not all men think
that brother is weak. All right?
No. So let me tell you something. You're gonna go around a woman.
Once again, that guy, for me, that guy is weak. For me, as a man, right? I care less whether she's earning £1 million a week, £1 million a month, a year. What my responsibility as a man is, if I go out and work in McDonald's, so on and so forth. If I then take that money, whether it's £100 or £200, whatever I can sacrifice and afford, and I contribute that towards a child, that's all that's important to me. I'm not worried about all the other stuff that goes around the edge, whether she's putting 6 in and I'm putting 2 in. If I can only physically put 2 in, that's it, plain and simple. I will contribute as much as
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you have no job, no money, no job,
Go find one. Go find one.
Yeah, exactly. Go find one. But I'm saying, as you're looking, imagine, because not every day everyone's going to be like to you, oh yeah, you got the job. Every single application that you put out, we want to interview with you on Monday.
I can get a job in McDonald's.
It's going to happen. But I can
get a job in McDonald's in 24 hours. I can get a job in McDonald's in 24 hours.
Not everybody can get a job at McDonald's in 24 hours.
Bin cleaner.
Huh?
Bin cleaner.
You get a cleaner.
Cleaner, possibly.
Listen to me. McDonald's is always hiring. Burger King is always hiring.
But I'm
Pizza
saying
always
you
hiring.
gotta wait. You gotta wait until you get your paycheck. You gotta wait 4 weeks until you get your paycheck, and she's still saying to you, "You're not a man. You're not this. You're not that." Blah 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 blah.
You don't need to.
But when you get your McDonald's
okay,
paycheck,
right.
your £400
So
paycheck.
so once again, so
Wait until you get the £400 paycheck.
so Lily.
Yeah.
You get benefits though.
So how can
Free McFlurry.
Because you can pay for your child. You got benefits. You can definitely
Okay.
add something to the pitney.
1 second, sorry, Sheila.
Hey son, I bought you McFlurry.
So Lily, think about this scenario. Yes. Now you're in a relationship. Yes. Now you're working. Your partner is not working. Yes. But your partner is telling you he's the man of the house. Yes. Now, can you respect him if you can see he's basically just talking, but he's not showing no action? He's not doing nothing to show you or to demonstrate to you that he's the man of the house.
I'm working. He's not working.
He's not working.
Okay, but guess what? You
No,
can show
answer
me.
the question. Answer the question. Can you
But
respect him?
say, can I? Yeah, of course I can respect him to say that he's the man of the house. That's fine.
No, but he's not doing anything though, Lee.
Yes.
So, but he's at
He's not looking for
home.
jobs.
And
Yeah, he's at home doing nothing, and he's not even looking for a job. Nothing.
You ain't a
Oh.
man, ho.
No.
Mm.
No way, man. You're not
Yeah,
a
but
man.
he
ho.
could be a bedroom bully though.
What? Does that pay bills?
Hey, listen,
No.
Okay,
I only
so
respect him for however long it is, isn't it?
I could have got in there terrorizing the room.
But you know what? I respect him as a person. But I'm saying, like, come on, if you're not doing anything around the house, like, I wouldn't say you're not the man of the house, but you need to at least, you know, tie your boots up and go out there and look for a job. Like, I can't be the one doing it because it's a team effort.
exactly.
Because it's a team effort. Like, you need to show your part. You can't just be putting your territory on everything in the house, and but I'm paying for the bills and you're watching the TV.
I couldn't
You
stay
can
with
switch
him.
it off, you know.
Exactly. So now, if you think about it from a ex-partner who's paying for everything, and you're just basically living life doing nothing while the child needs things. So obviously, from a human point of view, the female will get frustrated because the fact is that you're still going out, seeing these, hooking up with these girls, having fun, doing what you're doing, but you're not providing for your child. So I can see why she may get frustrated and she may get upset the fact that you're not basically providing. And you can't tell me because he hasn't got a job. You know, you can go and get any job, doesn't matter what job it is, any job. From time you're contributing, yes, she may complain and say, it's not enough. Because why? She's probably struggling to having to think about it. Childcare costs is a lot. So she's probably struggling having to fund everything. So she needs more help. So then you have to go and get 2 jobs, 3 jobs. You do whatever you have to do to provide for your child. Do you agree, Jay?
I agree.
I've got a question to this, because what if, yeah, the woman's not working anymore and the man's not working anymore, and they don't have any, you know, person to care for their child whilst they try to go and look for jobs and things like that, in terms of interviews, second interviews, third stage, blah blah blah. And what do you do in that instance when, imagine someone, you know, one of them has a job opportunity, yeah, and you know, maybe it's on the same day, but what do you do then?
Speak to the potential employer to see whether or not they've got a nursery. Some have got nursery, some have got creches. Also speak to the employer to see whether or not you can either reschedule to book for another day. Explain to them this is the scenario. A lot of them will be very accommodating, because obviously, you know, in the current environment, there's lots of things you can do. But for you to turn around and just basically put your hands in the air and say, you know, that's it, that is not a solution. You have to try it.
I'm only saying that because some people don't know that their companies can offer like such services or advice or support for childcare and whatever. So, you know, some people don't know about these things.
I do agree with you, but this is my point. Yes, people tend to do what they really want. Yeah. So what I mean by that is, if I want to go link a girl, yes, and I've got no money, yes, because I really want to go link that girl, I'm gonna find a way to go link that girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because that is high on my priority list, that's what I'm gonna do.
And it's gonna happen too. You're gonna link that girl.
For some people, their child isn't high on that list.
On a priority list.
That's why, you know, they will maybe give it a 10-20% effort, but that's it. But if it's for something that they really want to do, they put in
150%.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue, more than the fact that they can't. They choose not to.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's definitely a priority thing. I think we know if you want, if you want to achieve something, you would achieve if you really and truly are dedicated. If you're dedicated to providing for your family and for your kids, you'll find means and ways to provide and be dedicated to your family. If I were to lose my job now, and let's say for instance the money I give to my baby mothers, for example, if I was to lose my job now and I had to go and get a much lower paid job, and I had to then turn around and give her less money, because obviously I earn less money to be able, that's what it's going to have to be, right? That's what we'll have to come through that agreement, that with certain things has to get adjusted, and these are the reasons why, right? At the end of the day, to my daughter, my daughter's not looking every month and saying, oh yeah, thanks Dad for putting the money in, and then we continue to get, she's not even she's oblivious. She's totally oblivious to the transaction in the first place. She won't know that she wouldn't even probably know that this transaction happened until she's quite up in her age.
I don't understand how some men can go months without even speaking to their child.
Okay, crazy.
I don't understand that. Can you explain that, Shayla?
What, Cliff? What else can you say?
But why are so many men like that, Jay?
Because they're used to being they're used to what they, you know what we said before, that a lot of men are okay with being like weekend dads or not being really there. They're used to, they like it like that, and you know, giving them enough time and for them to cancel on weekend trips or meetups and everything, it just becomes a thing where it's not convenient for them to have their child be there more, you know, a lot of times. That's why some of them will see their child once a month and think that's enough, you know. That's enough, that is good, you know. Give them a little 5-minute conversation and then bye.
I think they're immature. I think they're still immature.
I think it just comes down to what Phil said as well earlier, that they're just not emotionally invested.
Yeah, not invested.
Like they're just selfish as well.
As well, yeah.
Okay,
immaturity as well.
I'm gonna read out a few statements, and you can tell me whether or not you agree or disagree. Yes. So this is to do with absent fathers. So truancy and poor academic performances. 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. Fatherless children have more trouble academically, scoring poorer on tests of reading, mathematics, and thinking skills. Children from father-absent homes are more likely to play truant from school, more likely to be excluded from school, more likely to leave school at the age of 16, and less likely to attain academic and professional qualifications. Do you agree with that, Forbes?
I disagree with every single one of it.
I don't. Hey,
And I've always disagreed. I've always disagreed, and I've always struggled from, I think, probably one of the first time we ever spoke about subjects like this, when it comes to statistics on kids being, statistics showing that kids are somehow more successful because they have two parents rather than one. I don't understand how, I still struggle to understand how that is even, there's any truth to that at all. Statistics say so, but I don't agree with it whatsoever. I think aspect of, for instance, me learning to be an artist, I don't think that needs my mum or my dad to be there to necessarily train me to be an artist. I think it's not.
Okay.
So great.
So that point was about fatherless. So it's not saying about having two parents in the same home.
Correct. But that's what I mean. As in not having a father there to teach me how to paint. It doesn't mean I don't believe my dad's not there. That means I have less likelihood to be an artist or not. I'm just using the art as an example because I also studied art as growing up. So, and I know the reason why I didn't make it as a famous graphic designer isn't because my dad wasn't around. It's because I personally wasn't committed to it. I wasn't personally physically committed enough to it. When I got to a certain stage, but the minute my commitment levels weighed, so did my progress, right? So
do you agree that if you had support from your parents, that would have aided you more in your
I don't even
life?
necessarily think it was necessarily support from a parent or parents, as in two individuals supporting me, because I think my mom was more. My mom was more than capable of driving me to do better. At some point, you get to an age where you have to, as an adult, make decisions left and right. And my mom's advice would only ever go so far. She could say the same things a million times. Her advice would only ever go to a certain point. So after a point, it becomes your responsibility. You have to say, okay, I wasn't committed to it enough, and this is why I wasn't successful. I think using the excuses of having two people, or mom and dad, like your dad's gonna drive you more than like your mom would. I don't agree with it. I had a strong, maybe because I had such a strong mother, I don't believe I necessarily needed a strong father to also create balance. I think she was more than enough to create balance for me anyway. So
do you think that because that was your environment?
It was, and I mature differently in comparison to a lot of people for different things, right?
Okay, so Jay, do you agree with Forbes?
Yeah, I agree with Forbes, but at the same time, I think what you read out does play some sort of. I'm not saying all children that don't have their dads around, fail at school or they leave school at 16. No, not necessarily, but at the same time, having your dad there as well could possibly play some sort of role, because, for example, I don't know, you might not be doing so well in maths, yeah, and your mom wants you to have extra tutoring, but she can't afford it. But then maybe if you had your mom and dad there, then maybe they might have been able to afford extra lessons for you. Or when a child comes back home from school, they've got homework to do, but mom's got the other kids to look after. She's got to go cook dinner and do the housework and whatnot. But maybe if the dad was there, that could have been, maybe whilst mom's doing the other children or whatnot, he can maybe spend an hour or so just helping with the homework. That might have played some sort of part into him maybe excelling. But I'm not saying it's totally true, but it could possibly play some sort of part, maybe having the dad there as well.
Okay, so Lily, do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I do, because sometimes you need an extra parent to help financially support a dream of yours, and sometimes one parent can't alone, their wage can't do that. So I do agree.
Shayla, did you agree with my statement that I read out?
No.
Because
I just feel like it's down to the child. I feel like it's down to who I think it's down to who they've been raised by and what's been installed in them. And also the environment. It has nothing to do with the dad.
I agree.
That could be used as their motivation. It depends on how they internalize it and choose to act out on it. I don't think it has anything to do with the fact that the fatherless is not there, because there are people that have fathers that have died, and they use that as a motivation so they can say, my dad can be proud of me if he was here, or some parents, their father might have left them, but it motivates them to still do well. So it just depends on the child. Like some people as well like to play on the excuse of, oh, my dad wasn't around. And it depends on the person that has been raising them as well, because if they've been raised by somebody that allows them to keep having these excuses because their parent that was around is that person as well, and allows them, they run their life by excuses, they're going to turn out and be having excuses consistently. Some people allow themselves to be so surrounded by themselves and get be in their sad state that they find comfort in it. And some people find comfort in the fact that it'll be a woe me situation, and like to go off on that and be like, well, my life has been handed as bad. I've been dealt with a bad hand because my dad wasn't there. And if the people around them are like, yeah, you have, and don't encourage them to do better, they're gonna keep going off that narrative.
Yeah,
and thinking, that's what my life has been dealt. It's quite sad.
Okay, so the next statement. Okay, so youth crime, including violent crime, 85% of youth in prison have absent fathers. Fatherless children are more likely to offend and go to jail as adults. What do you think about that statement, Lily?
Yeah, I kind of agree with it, because the reason being, as we said, as we've been speaking about before, like the environment that you're in, and also just your upbringing really can have a big factor on that. And as Shayla said, if you continue to say, oh, poor me, or as Jay said as well, as a factor, you know, dad wasn't there, so, or mum wasn't there, so it didn't allow me to, you know, get into that course. I didn't have enough money. So it's like they turn to other things that will enable them to get money quicker, depending on the environment that they're in as well, to maybe not even just to get on that course, because maybe it's not even that's the course is not even a priority anymore, because they found that on the road you get more money than you can do graduating from that course, and quickly. So the whole ambition, or I could say the whole working class mindset, even though they weren't from it, but they aspired like to be a working class, it's all gone. It's all gone just because of the environment. So yeah, I do partly agree with that statement.
Do you thoughts?
I think I agree. I think my sensation is completely opposite to the academic aspect, and I do believe that where I don't believe necessarily a gender specific is needed for a child to academically develop, I do believe that the gender aspect plays more of a role when it comes to sort of, I guess, not necessarily with combination of the discipline, or at least the ability to oversee and control, and to intervene. Four eyes better. I'm saying 4 eyes better than 2, right? So I definitely agreed. I think I can see not having necessarily, maybe not necessarily a father, but having a strong male figure in a child's life, especially a boy's life, can lead him to seek that reference other places, aka seeks it in his friends. Hence, they end up doing on the streets and doing all kinds of, because there is no guidance. Nobody has a strong male figure to at least point them in the right direction. So ultimately, you have a pack of wolves trying to teach each other how to hunt, and ultimately they're going to come up short.
And think about it, that strong male figure, you can say in the gang or whatever, the leader, that is the strong male figure, essentially, because even though they're doing bad things, the person's there. And they're obviously going to be consistently in their life for them to, you know, do all of these deals for me and get the work done. They're obviously going to be there calling, yo, you're right, just wondering how you're going, you know, like grooming them as well, grooming them into being notorious person. And so even though the person is bad, at the end of the day, and they're in prison 20 years later, I'm doing 20 years because of, I don't know, so-and-so gang leader, but that gang leader is still outside. That gang leader is probably still keeping his family good, calling him, you know, whenever. And when he gets out, it's just going to be back to the same old thing. But the person in jail can't see that it's led him down such a bad lifestyle, but that person is still in my life. No matter if they're saying bad, like, do this bad thing, you know what I mean? That's the only role model they have. So
we know from like looking at sports, we know a lot of famous sports people that necessarily didn't grow up with fathers, but have looked in, for instance, Mike Tyson being a perfect example, whereas he looked at his trainer as a father-like figure, right? Because he taught him boundaries, and because obviously he was a wild as a child, right? And he said he taught him boundaries and discipline, because I think especially as a boy, we're boys in there on here. Obviously we've got 2 ladies on there, but as boys, you know that you would love to have had the freedom to do whatever you want, but you know you also needed to understand boundaries. If you didn't understand boundaries, I'm pretty sure most of us, or at least 1 out of 3 of us, would end up in jail or somewhere less fortunate, right? And that's because we've had somebody instill boundaries in us. And I think fathers in that aspect play a very, very, very heavy part. I do agree with that.
Okay. So this is the statement.
Mhm.
Father absent children tend to enter partnerships earlier, are more likely to divorce or dissolve their cohabiting unions, and are more likely to have children outside of marriage. Do you agree with that, Shayla?
Yeah. So they're doing what they see, and that's in their environment. Unless, like I said, they are in an environment that's not like that, and the people that they hang out with are of a different caliber. So, like, if they were raised by their mum, but their mum was from an area that had kids there that had a different environment where they had saw parents together, just they'll grow up that way. So I think environment plays a lot of influence on how the child grows up and who they hang out with and who they are around.
Okay. And last question to Jay. Do you agree with that statement?
No, I disagree with it. Yes, just like the point that I made earlier. And I think Shay just touched on it as well, just about the people that you surround yourself by. All because you've come from a broken home doesn't mean you're gonna have a child out of wedlock, or you're gonna end up being divorced as well. Because you can use that as extra motivation to not fall into the same pitfall.
Mm-hmm.
And because you've got people around you, and the people that you've got around you, their parents are an inspiration as well. And there could be people that you look to, to try and emulate and even do better as well. So, yeah, I disagree with that.
Okay, so I agree with that point, but I also agree with your point at the same time. But the reason why I also disagree with your point is, so, prime example, if you think about all the children you went to school with, yeah, how many of them work in a professional setting?
How many of them work in a professional setting that I grew up with?
Yes.
Quite a few, to be fair.
From school?
From school.
Okay, so now what proportion have been to jail?
More than 50%, to be honest.
Now, okay, yeah.
So same question.
So same question to Forbes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in your school, how many have gone into the professional setting, and how many have gone to jail?
Well, from a school setting, I say a lot of them has gone into professional jobs, but not necessarily a lot of them has gone into jail. But from like outside of school, I would definitely say it's a reversal, where you have more of them go to jail and less professional. But the people I've gone to physical school with and like college or uni, a lot of them are in professional jobs, and not a lot of them have been in jail. But if I academically went to school with the right people, but then hung out with the wrong people, that's probably what it's.
But it is down to the environment. It
is an environment.
My point is, yes, there's always anomalies,
Mm-hmm.
but generally, based off your environment, if you were raised in a different environment up in Windsor, there's a high possibility that you'd be way more successful than you would do growing up in, say, Peckham, based off the caliber of people in that environment. Yeah,
but you can find a bunch in your school that are not of that caliber, even though they're from the environment. And if you surround yourself with those kind of people, you will do better, because you all have the same agenda, which is to grow up and move out of that area or lifestyle and do better.
No, but I have to agree with John. You stand more of a higher chance of being success, because there's more. The average person around you is successful in comparison to the average person around you being not successful. So you're more like, if that was based on a coin flip, it will more likely land based on you being more successful than not being successful.
yes.
You're ultimately fighting against the odds when you are raised in a less successful environment. Or influential environment.
This word successful is what it is to that person. Now, for someone being raised in Windsor, their success might be measured in their career, and someone that was raised in Peckham, their success might be removing themselves from that environment and becoming successful to their level, which could be just getting a proper job in an office and attaining a degree of some sort of level. So I feel like it depends.
Okay, so I understand your point, but we're talking about the generic term of being successful, yes? Yeah. Not subjective. Yeah. So same like they say,
Money, no.
the people who run the country tend to go to Eton or Oxford or Cambridge. They don't come from Peckham, do they?
No, but let me tell you
but
something
there's a lot
about
of
that.
people
Yeah,
come
someone could easily go into Oxford or Cambridge, and they could come from Peckham, because I know quite a few ladies. Yeah, they have grown up in like Brixton or whatever, and they choose courses, especially the I would say the Nigerian and Caribbean. They choose courses like midwifery, you know, social care. They choose law, and they're coming from like Croydon or whatever, and they have successful careers. But then it's some people that feel like, oh, I'm never gonna be able to, you know, uni's not for me, and sometimes they have that entrepreneurial mindset, and it's not like they don't go such further as a university degree. They just go to like college or maybe even just school, and they do things that, you know, you're trying to be that person with your degree and your college certificate and be that successful person when they've already probably made it at just A level, just because they realize that uni wasn't for them or whatever. And there's other people in school, which I tell you they are so smart. Yeah, they are so smart. They didn't choose to go to university. They didn't choose to go to college just to prove anything. They know they're smart, so they don't want that. They just chose to do things by themselves, and now they're rich.
My point wasn't about saying that no one can make it out of Peckham. No one ain't saying that.
There are
lots of people who can be successful coming from Peckham or living in Peckham. There could be lots of people. But what my point was is about probability. Yes, if you're in a environment which is around successful people, there's a high probability that you too will also be successful compared to if you came from a environment which was less affluent. That's my point. You always find anomalies.
Success can come from the lower areas.
Pardon?
That means success can come from the lower areas.
He's not disagreeing.
Yes,
remember, we mimic our environment.
Yes.
Hence why if we're in more poverty-stricken areas, we're more likely to be related or to do poverty-driven things, which is crime-related, right, or drugs-related. I'm not saying because you're rich you don't take drugs, but if your area is generally going to play a part in how, because we've been talking about this for the whole last 2 hours, right, in terms of how your environment is ultimately going to influence what you tend to end up become. It's only really strong individuals are able to overcome their environment to become just an individual, right? Most people succumb to their environment, and that's kind of summarizes what we've spoken about the last 2 hours, right?
But then what about those? Yeah, I get you, because also, you know, those famous or rich people, they can succumb to their environment as well, because I've heard stories and I've known about, you know, those people, and they take drugs and they have another lifestyle, and they do that all together collectively. Just because we can't see it, say like a lower class, we can't see it, whatever, but it doesn't mean it's not going on. And so people would look at them in a high place, but they're doing things that, you know, doing things that they just won't get caught for.
Yeah, but we know over history. Yeah, we know over history. Hundreds of famous actresses have all died due to drug overdose, and we know that they get into things and they're influenced by the environment that they're in. A lot of these people coming from completely different environment to the environment they end up with fame and being surrounded by a lot of things, and then they tend to just mimic the environment. So everyone's around them taking drugs.
Yeah, but they still have they still have fame, they still have riches, but it doesn't bring them down. Do you get what I mean?
I think what you're forgetting
maybe emotionally or mentally, but it doesn't bring them down. Yeah, maybe emotionally, mentally, but it doesn't bring them down like in society. Because, you know, you would say that when you're coming from a maybe lower class, unprivileged area, and you started to dibble and dabble in those things, yeah, and then it can, like, people will be like, oh yeah, he's gone down because even lower than lower class or whatever that is, because he's doing drugs, he's selling this, he's doing that, he's on road. But for another person who's rich, it's like, it's not going to take away their money. It's like they're seen as, they probably even have more money than you on road, but just because they chose to go that route, it's like, oh yeah, he's doing not good for himself. Do you get what I mean? I don't know if I'm wording it wrong, but like, do you get that?
I your point. Unfortunately, we live in a society where people are prejudiced. Yeah, even like, for example, the former Prime Minister's son, who was, caught taking drugs. Yes, just because you're of a certain social class, that doesn't mean that you're not doing the same thing that people from a lower social class are doing. All it means is that you've unfortunately had a better start in life, and we all know the better start you have in life, the more chances you have in life to succeed. That's the point. Not saying that you can't succeed coming from a poorer area. On that note, I'm gonna close off. I would like to thank you all for partaking. Paul, do you want to give out your socials?
Yeah, so as you know, next 2 weeks I should be ready to launch. My thing's gonna take off like the old Concorde, before they stop it, the thing just take off and gone. So on my Instagram, chef.deli, follow me. Hit my website up, DeliTheWingman.com, download my app, Chef Deli, the Wingman, make the thing happen, order some wings.
Lily, do you want to give out your socials?
Yeah, at Lee Markella, that is LeeMarkella, and then we have the cooking, CW, the real cook, sorry, CWLEE.cooks. Okay, where you can just see food, but also you can smell it when you go on there.
Through the phone?
Okay.
Yeah, you can. My page has that effect.
Okay.
What's it called? What's it called? I'm gonna follow because I never follow your food. What's it called?
CW Lee, like LEE. .cooks.
Okay, so Shayla, are you gonna follow that same energy from Lily?
Quite simple, really. It's .style, ITS.style, STYLE, and no, that is not my Instagram. I'm so sorry. My Instagram is
I was like, what is
.style, ITSHER.style, STYLE. Finito.
Okay. And last but not least, Jay, I'm hoping you're going to give more energy than Shayla.
You know what? I'm so disappointed, but I don't even have social media. I have nothing. So yeah.
No worries. Cool. So thank you all for.
Yay.
No worries. Thank you all for partaking, and hopefully I'll see you soon on the next episode of Behind Life Struggles.
Bye.
Bye.